For today, the only prop that you may need is a blanket or a large towel that you can use for a little bit of support as you move through some different poses throughout the hips. So whenever you're ready and have what you need, go ahead and meet me in a cross-legged seated position. To start, go ahead and bring the left ankle in front of the right. Just crossing in front of one another. You don't have to come into lotus unless that's accessible for you and that's where you'd like to start. By all means, go ahead and explore what feels good for you. And then if you have a towel, blanket, and you'd like to find a little bit more ease getting started, go ahead and sneak that underneath your sit bones to find a little bit of a lift. And allow the sit bones to anchor into your support, into the mat. Find a tall spine. Roll the shoulder blades down against the back body. Allowing your body to relax, settle in. Feel free to close your eyes if you'd like. Allowing the hands to rest up on top of your knees. And just coming into your space. Finding equal weight to start within the sit bones. We're going to start to move from that center position, starting to find some circles. You can start going counterclockwise. From the right, leaning the chest forward, coming towards the left, and then rounding back. Starting small, we'll make the movements a little bit bigger the more we flow through. And just moving through those points, trying to hit every aspect of those circles and making them a little bit bigger each time. Don't feel restricted into keeping the sit bones anchored. Feel free to allow them to lift. Just knowing that if they do come off your starting point, that is just fine. These first few moments are giving you the opportunity to explore your space, explore your mobility, seeing how you feel. So don't limit yourself in any way. And then with those circles, start to hold the chest forward when you lean the weight forward. And then incorporate more of the spine. So as you sit the body back, you're rounding the back. As you come towards the right, you kind of shift your weight towards the right, and then just incorporating a little bit more of the body into these circles. Seeing how you feel in the hips, within the back, and the chest and shoulders. One more breath, moving at your own fluid pace. And then wherever you're at, go ahead and reverse the movement, moving now clockwise towards the right. As your circles get bigger, leaning over the thighs, seeing how you feel in the hips as you lean away, seeing how you feel on the opposite side, and just taking note of how things feel. If you were in the tabletop position when you do those barrel rolls, getting more into the side bodies, to the front and the back of the body, back of the torso. And if you want to keep the legs stationary, you can always use the palm of the hands to kind of anchor them down. Explore your space that way. But if that movement feels good, allow that to happen. If that stirring motion by allowing the knees to come up feels good, don't keep the body doing that. Whatever happens, let it happen. One more breath. And come back in towards center. Make any adjustments that you need. Deep inhale. Open the mouth, exhale. So if you had support underneath your sit bones, you can go ahead and take that out. We're just going to find a forward fold to start. So reach the spine long, keeping the legs crossed, the ankles crossed, left in front of right. And then with that length in the spine, start to fold forward. You can keep the hands anchored on the knees, on the ankle, and the top of the foot to find that fold. And maybe start to walk the hands out. Once you feel like you've hinged at the hips as much as you can, then you can lower the head down. Now trying to keep the sit bones anchored back behind you in order to explore the space as much as you can. Trying not to let them follow you forward. So keeping them anchored down and towards the earth. With every inhale, finding length, and every exhale, folding a little bit deeper. 2 more breaths. Start to walk the hands back towards you, sitting the torso up tall. And then keeping the right leg where it's at, spin the left leg out and back behind you. Coming into deer legs or deer pose. So allow the right foot to come away from your inner thigh just a little bit. So you're kind of coming into this more open position. You can keep the knees a little bit more bent than you typically would as we explore some more space here. And then turn the body over towards the right thigh and fold forward once more. So keeping that spine long, hinging at the hip. Coming a little bit deeper. And as before, walking the arms out in front of you. And finding that compression between the front body and the inner thigh. Feeling the back of the hip and the side of the right hip lengthen. And breathing into that compression. Staying on your forearms if you'd like to stay supported. Or if you have the space to come all the way down, forehead to the backs of the hands. Wherever you're at, try not to fight it. So if you feel like you're fidgeting or you have tension elsewhere, come out of it, find a little bit more space. You want to be able to feel what's happening in the right hip. You don't want to be focused elsewhere. You don't want your focus to be drawn away from the space that you're trying to create here. One more breath. Inhale, find length, exhale, and folding down. And then inhale, start to walk the hands back towards you, bringing the torso up tall. And then from here, slide the left leg back in towards you, recrossing the ankles, but now the right ankle is in front of the left. As we did with the left foot in front, we're going to start to find some rolls. So starting counterclockwise, starting small as we did before, and then getting a little bit bigger each time. And then see how this feels compared to the left foot being in front. Noticing how these seemingly minor changes in your position may feel a whole lot different in the body. if you felt comfortable starting from that position, that lifted seat, go ahead and bring the blanket back if you'd like that. Or you can keep the blanket towards the side. You don't feel like that's something that would benefit you in any way at this time. So 3 more breaths, go at your own pace, explore your range, your mobility in any capacity that feels good for you. Incorporate the spine, make it big, make it small, whatever feels good. And then start to reverse that movement. Moving clockwise towards the right. Exploring the mobility within the core, within the side body, within the inner thigh, the outer hip, the groin, feeling how everything feels. Two more breaths, finding your movement, exploring your space. And come back towards center. If you brought the blanket back, go ahead and take that out. Or actually you can leave it as we fold forward. So if you want that little bit of a lift, false alarm, bring that blanket back if you'd like to have it there, if you'd like that little bit of a boost. And then palms on knees, spine comes long, and then exhale, forward fold. Use that leverage as long as you need, and then start to walk the hands out. Continue to hinge at the hips as best you can. Then once you find that length, go ahead and exhale, allow everything to fold forward. Keeping those sit bones anchored towards the surface, whether it's the blanket, the mat, or maybe you don't have a mat today. Maybe you're right on your, wherever you're at, keep the sit bones anchored down. Inhale, keep that length. Exhale, fold a little bit deeper. Maybe reach your fingertips a little bit further. One more breath. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, fold. And then start to walk the fingertips back towards you. And now you can release the blanket from underneath your hips. And then keeping the left leg where it's at, spinning the right leg out and back behind you. Open the bend of the front knee a little bit more. Coming into that deer pose. You could be as closed off or as open as you like, depending on your space, your mobility, your balance here. And starting nice and tall, start to twist over towards the left thigh, and then forward fold over the left hip. And keeping that spine as long as you can, with that length throughout the torso there, you're able to get into the hips a little bit deeper. Find a little bit more space than you otherwise would. So being able to keep that spine long does help in other areas of the body. Being in a space that you're able to feel the opening, the stretch within the outer edge of the left hip. Trying not to hold on to tension anywhere else in the body. Try not to steal any focus from the left side. keeping the torso turned towards the left thigh as best you can. Finding that compression, breathing into those limited spaces. Twice more. During your forearms, go ahead and come onto palms and fingertips. Walk the body back up. And then coming onto your hands and knees. Plant the hands, tuck the left leg underneath you, come into a tabletop position. From here, bring the knees a little bit wider, as wide as you feel comfortable going. So like we're coming into frog pose, but you don't have to come as deep, or as wide, I should say. So you can keep the toes tucked for now, and just sit the hips back towards the heels. So it's like you're coming into a really wide child's pose, but rather than the toes being big toes to touch, you're keeping the toes wide. And then just sitting the hips towards the heels, then coming back up into that tabletop position. If you're on a firmer surface and you have a little bit of discomfort in the knees in any way, and you want a little bit more support, feel free to grab that blanket or that towel and just give your knees a little bit of support. Holding on to tension or discomfort in other areas of the body can distract from the main focus, from the main goal of the movement. So there's no sense in forcing any which aesthetic or direction when those supports are available to find a little bit more ease. So with every round, maybe your knees come a little bit wider and you're able to sit a little bit lower. Just moving forward and back at a nice slow, steady pace. Maybe holding for a few moments, for a long pause as you sit back towards the back of your mat. And then on the last round here, come into that position that you're able to feel that strong, comfortable stretch. You don't have to force the knees in any which space or direction. But wherever you ended up in that last round, go ahead and sit the hips back, and we're gonna hold here. If you're able to come down onto your forearms, go ahead. Keep that support underneath you. And just allow the hips to fall heavy. Falling back behind you, and then also coming down towards the earth in any capacity that's accessible. The wider your knees, the lower you're able to sit. And just breathing into those areas of tension, areas of deeper stretch within the inner thigh. Maybe creeping a little bit in towards the groin, because we're getting a little bit deeper into the hips here. But if anything feels too uncomfortable, too intense, feel free to either come out of it or bring the knees a little bit closer towards one another and explore the space that way. We're gonna hold here for 3 more breaths. Inhale, come back up. Come into tabletop, bring the knees underneath your hips. And then you can, if your knees feel good having this support, feel free to keep that there. Otherwise, you can remove the blanket and set that aside. And then from tabletop, go ahead and bring the left leg out long. So almost in that gate pose position where we're gonna stay hands to the earth. Keeping the toes tucked or untucked, whatever feels most comfortable for you. And then start to slowly sit the hips back. Inhale back up. Exhale, sit the hips back and low. So move through this motion a few times here. Sitting the hips straight back behind you. Then I stretch the inner thigh on the left side. You'll be nice and slow, exploring that range of motion that you have here. Then you can keep the legs straight, or you can find a slight bend in the knee. You'll still be able to get into this space. So find whatever modification feels right in your body, whether the knee is straight, whether the knee is a little bit bent. And on the next round, go ahead and sit the hips back as low as you feel comfortable. And then reaching the fingertips a little bit further towards the top of the mat. Feel free to untuck the toes. We're going to hold here for a little bit longer, so if you want to find a little bit more comfort, you can untuck there. You can always bring that blanket. And then sit the hips down onto the blanket so that blanket is supporting between the heel and the and your bottom. So that support can be helpful too. From here, you're going to thread the left arm underneath the right, finding a little bit of a twist, and this twist will get a little bit deeper into the inner thigh on the left side. So keeping that left leg extended long, threading the left arm underneath the right armpit. And if that compression on the right side within the right leg and the torso is too much, you can always find a little bit of lift. Come off of that heel a little bit more. Inhale, unravel. And then return to tabletop position, bring the left leg in. And we're going to come on to the right side. So from tabletop, extend the right leg out towards the right, beyond the outer edge of the mat, and start to sit the hips back behind you. Rocking the hips back and forth. Taking longer holds as you sit further back. Knowing that we're going to hang out at your furthest point in just a few more rounds. So the next opportunity that you have to sit the hips back, go ahead. Come as low as you can, as low into the stretch as you feel comfortable, and then reach the fingertips out long. Knowing that you can keep the knee bent. If that's comfortable for you, toes are tucked or untucked. You bring in a blanket if you need. If you want to sit all the way back, bringing that blanket in or staying high. Reaching the fingertips forward, sit bones come back behind you. And keeping that position, threading the right arm underneath the left armpit, finding a little bit of a twist. Breathing into the compression. Finding ease in the limitations. In the spaces that are a little bit more closed off. Inhale, unravel, coming back into tabletop. Remove any props that you have. And then cross the ankles, return back to your sit bones. Going back into that, we're going to come back into that deer pose. Find a little bit of expansion within the front body. So with the left foot in front of the right, go ahead and swing the left leg back behind you. Closing off the angle a little bit more, so you don't have to be big and wide at a 90-90. Tuck everything in, so the sole of the right foot is on top of the left thigh. And then right fingertips behind the right hip. Sweep the left arm up and over, press the hips up and forward. Find that space in the front body. Reaching the fingertips long back behind you. Feeling the opening within the front of the hips. And exhale, lower down. Go ahead and switch the legs. Left leg sweeps in front, right leg sweeps back behind. Close off that angles, find that connection. Left fingertips behind left hip. Sweep the right arm up and over, press the hips up and forward. Reaching the right fingertips. And exhale, lower down. Cross the right foot back in front of the left. Or whichever cross works well for your body. Whichever one comes naturally, go ahead and find that position. If you want that blanket to find ease in this final pose, go ahead. Go ahead and just settle in to your seated posture here. Seeing how your body feels now in this position versus coming onto your mat at the start of the class. And feel free to stay here. Or you can unravel the legs, feet flat, knees bent, and lower the body all the way down. Keeping the blanket underneath the hips, find a little bit of a lift. You can take it even one step further, bring the feet together, soles come to touch, knees fall wide. In this more open position, breathing into the front of the hips, the inner thighs. And working with gravity, not fighting against it, letting everything fall open and relaxing into the mat. Falling heavy. Releasing any tension that you notice throughout the body. Feel free to stay here for as long as you need to explore that opening, that space that you created within your hips. Thank you so much for practicing with me, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Have a great day.